Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace reporting live here at the Jazz Standard here in New York City. Tonight you're going to witness musical history. Saxophonist Azar Lawrence tonight is playing to a couple of nights to music fans for an upcoming live album that he's going to release sometime next year, featuring Mr. Jeff Tain Watts on drums, Nicholas Payton on trumpet, Benito Gonzalez on piano, as well as Essiet Okon on bass. We're going to sit down and talk about his origins, of how he started growing up in Los Angeles, to him playing straight-ahead jazz with some icons, Elvin Jones, McCoy Tyner, to his real strong rhythm and blues and soul roots, collaborating with the likes of Marvin Gaye, to Maurice White and the group Earth, Wind and Fire. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sounds of Mr. Azar Lawrence live here at the Jazz Standard here in New York City. Tonight we witness history. This is getting ready to be off your next CD, live at the Jazz Standard. Tell me about this project. I know this has been something that you've been wanting to do for a minute.
True. I took some time and put a studio together. One of my partners, Christopher Hiller, and my personal manager, Linda G., we strategized and put some time in between gigs where I could write, and I put a Pro Tools system together, and it's in LA, and so I did a series of jobs up and down the West Coast that allowed me to kind of stay on that side for a couple of months, and I wrote some songs and formalized the concept, and it was interesting because, like, Gandhi is an example of my writing when I write from the saxophone. And like Tribes is an example of the keyboard writing, So I wrote this time. I was able to utilize my keyboard skills as far as writing. Previously, I had felt that the way I write from the keyboard had been mostly for pop ventures, like for the Earth, Wind and Fire stuff and Stanley Turner. And so I felt that to so-called jazz, when I would write that, like on the Mystic Journey CD, the Mystic Journey, the title track was some of the saxophone. So I write a certain style from this horn, and I write a certain type of style from the keyboards. And this time I just said, it's all me, and so I'm not worried about what it is. It's just music, and so I just wrote from both. My concept is, my long-range goal is to heal, to can really open up clinics and heal with color and music. I've studied over the years the music therapy they call it now, and so in order to fund it, I figured if you write a hit song on a a million selling record, you're on your way to funding something. And then I found out I had a knack to write pop music, and so when I moved back to Los Angeles, I was writing, and I did quite a few compositions with Chuck Jackson as the producer, and which included Stanley Turrentine's Coming Home album. And I was playing keyboards on a lot of the things I did, all of his projects I was writing. I'd have at least 3 or 4 compositions on the album, and I'd be playing the keyboards on them because I have a little knack with the way I write, has a little flavor in it. I guess they wanted it on there, and so then I wrote on songs on the Power Light, Earth, Wind, and Fire album, where I also played keyboard. I actually am playing keyboard bass on those 3 songs. Spread Your Love, Hearts to Heart, and Freedom of Choice on that CD.
To train so much, but I think what you bring to the saxophones and your compositions is part of the earth. I'm talking about the roots of Africa. I'm talking about your essence. You really have come to know who you are, and you know what your music is all about, and you explain it to the audience out there tonight.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to have the audience participate with us in terms of the whole concept of it, and just to work. This is a work, like a writing, a compilation of writings as well. Just not on paper, but in the music, and so it's a whole story about the seeker, and the seekers within us. We, those of us that start to find ourselves, seek the wisdom or the ability to strengthen our listening ability to listen to our inner voice. We all have it. If we could just quiet ourselves enough, seek that inner voice. It's quietly. It's very whispering in there, but if you quiet yourself, you can hear it, and that will lead you from darkness to light. And so there are many seekers, and we all are seekers, but there's some that have been like Gandhi. One of the songs is Gandhi, and I thought that would just basically say it all in a word, as far as to express. At the end of the night, we played Gandhi, and that kind of gave a representation of a universal example of one who was, standing for righteousness and peace and, higher consciousness and nonviolence, equality, all those type of adjectives.
you started off with the violin back in Los Angeles. Tell me about this journey, because I know that you had this epiphany that you wanted to start playing the saxophone.
Yes, my mother, rest her soul, was a great pianist and teacher, of the sixth grade as well. But she was wanted to have one of us, my brother. I have an older brother, Vincent Hollier, who was a great artist. But we both played violin in the young age in the USC Junior Orchestra. And then my father, who was always there supporting, and if I needed an instrument or something, he was the sponsor, and he was just always there too, just right there supporting. And so he had a friend that used to come by. We moved up into the Baldwin Hills area in the early '60s, right before the passing of President Kennedy, actually, and we were one of the few black families there at the time. We had a pool and what have you, and so his friend used to come up and lay out on the pool on the weekend and play his flute. And then one weekend he brought an alto saxophone and was playing that, and I said, "Oh, wait a minute!" My hearing was starting to, my voice was deepening. I was thinking about, well, what am I going to do? Go to either cello or viola. I had thought about viola. Cello, obvious reasons, that's hard to carry around. But I was thinking about viola because my voice, I was hearing deeper. But then when I heard the alto, I was like, oh, man. I told my father, man, I want that. And he said, let's go get it. And he went out and got me a Selmer, got me the top of the line. I didn't know what to do with it. But then, my mother had these recitals of all her music students once a year or during the summer, It was after school teaching. She would teach music. And she had some very profound people that came through her as well, as far as musicians. So anyway, I remember the very first time, at the very first recital, she was going to play the piano, and we had worked the piece out. I didn't know that much about the saxophone, and when I laid it down, the neck of it had turned funny, and so when I got ready to play it, the octave key was propped open. I didn't realize that, so all I could do was play this. The squeak came out, so I couldn't play. But at any rate, that's how that came about. And then I just I had good teachers, and then later on, a few years later, a guy named Raymond Pounds, who was a drummer on Trouble Man, Marvin Gaye, he told me, he said, man, you need to play a man's horn. He said, play that tenor saxophone. I said, okay. I changed, got a tenor saxophone, and I hadn't even left too far from where I bought it, and I was playing a few notes down at the Musicians Union, and a guy came up to me and said, hey, man, you're just who we're looking for. And he said, come up to this address. And it was Ike and Tina Turner's baritone saxophone player. And so there that went. And so I started from there. And then, of course, Candy Finch, a great drummer, used to be with Dizzy, and Larry Gales, played with Monk. They had a club after hours, Tuesday and Thursdays from 2 to 6. And I played with them, with Woody Shaw, George Cables, and, when Larry Gales on bass, and Candy Finch, and played with them. At the same time, I was with Watts 103rd Street Band. And at the same time, I was at a mouthpiece maker guy's, Glenn Johnson, who was he's passed, of course, but he was a great mouthpiece maker. And I was trying a mouthpiece there that he had worked on. And his nephew came in, was in the house, and he came out and said, man, oh, wow, come in, I want you to come and check this out. So I went to a rehearsal, and it was with Eric Burton when he was forming War. And so he fired everybody and said, hey, man, listen, I'm going to form a new group around with you. He had me come up. I picked up a check every week until he got it straight. Every Friday I had to go pick up a check. So that worked fine because I was with the Watts 103rd Street Band, and then at night doing with Woody Shaw and the rest. Anyway, and then from there, Benny Golson's son, Reggie Golson, rest his soul, has passed, was my best friend, and I was at Benny Golson's home every day. And he was older. He would come and pick me up from high school, and I go up there, and he really tuned me in. He had a large record collection, and every day, man, we just listened. He was telling me, he's turned me on. That's where I got really familiar with John Coltrane and Miles and everybody, and Elvin. And Elvin had given him a drum set. Benny just told me not so long ago that Reggie knew Duke Ellington even better than he did. And Reggie used to tell me stories about he used to go on the road with him. So at any rate, Elvin came to town, and Reggie and I picked he and Elvin and Keiko up in a little Volkswagen bus, bug rather, at the airport, and I met him. And later on, he was playing that night at the Lighthouse, and so I had my soprano, and I guess Reggie had told him a lot about me, and so Elvin Jones walked up behind me and said, "You might get a chance to use that thing." So sure enough, then he invited me to a rehearsal the next day, and I guess Dave Liebman had left his and went with Miles. And it was Steve Grossman, Gene Perla, and I rehearsing. So I read the music, and I was packing up. "Hey, thanks for letting me play." He was like, "Wait a minute, you're with me, ain't you?" I was like, "Well, yeah." So I lived with him, and I lived with him. I was so young, I wasn't supposed to be in clubs yet, and he and Keiko said, "We're going to adopt you." So I stayed right there on Central Park West and played with him for 2 years. And when I left and went with McCoy, he had tears in his eyes.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. Reporting live here at the Jazz Standard here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank the members of the band, the staff and management here at the Jazz Standard, as well as Mr. Azar Lawrence for his time and his hospitality. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.